All right, welcome everybody. Today we're going to have a demo session on the new dashboard. This is a pretty neat and more highly integrated dashboard than the ones that we've had in the past. And I'll be kind of just stepping through at a higher level and showing everything that's in there. On the high level here, we have some stats about the ThreeFold network, how much capacity is available, and some quick links to various things that we will also see later on. Everything that you see here is also available in that bar here on the left. So this first section is some high-level stuff about the grid. We have our status page. This is actually a link out to a separate site. Here. This will show us some monitoring for essential services that support the ThreeFold network. So this can be a useful place to look if you're curious, like if something's not working for you, like say the dashboard, you can come to this site and it will give you an idea about how this site is performing. If it's had any downtime, you'll see that reflected here. So currently we're at 100% for all the essential things that help the network to run. So that's a cool one that maybe not everyone was aware about. You can go and look there if you have any questions about how things are working. This is a stats view, shows you for different countries how many nodes are connected. Also shows you how many nodes are in the network total. I think this is including nodes that are standby due to FarmerBot and all the other things on tram, hard disk, stuff like that. This node monitoring link, I'm not going to show it right now. It takes you to a Grafana dashboard that you can use to see some stats about nodes. I will show actually a more direct way to get to info about a specific node later through the node finder. You can click there and you'll be able to see info about nodes, like how much CPU load they have and things like that. So here inside the deployment section, we have quite a few things that can be relevant if you are deploying things on the grid. This is a pricing calculator, which allows you to see for a given amount of capacity and a given balance in TFT, how much you will pay. So if I want to rent, say, 2 cores and 4 gigs of RAM or something like that, it will change to show the discount that I'm getting based on the balance. I can also pretend that I have billions and billions of TFT in order to see what the best available discount would be for a given amount of capacity. So this is neat because it allows you to very quickly and easily get a sense for how much you'll be paying, which was really more difficult in the past. Node Finder is our new explorer. So there's some filters here. I know the dev team is working on some additional filters either for this section or in the deployment section that we'll see later. So I do think we have some changes coming down the pipe here. But we can scroll down and see some different nodes. These are nodes in free farm here. And we have all the usual information about what percentage of the node's capacity is currently reserved, where the node is, how much capacity it has, a bit more detail, number of workloads, if it's DIY or certified, some details about the farm, twin, network interfaces. And this is cool and relatively new. We also now have network speed testing and CPU benchmarking available here in the node finder. So this is cool because for a long time, there was no information available about the performance of the node or the node's network. So this is nice that we have this available now. And like I said, there will be some additional filtering and sorting type stuff coming later. And that's, I believe, one of the things that they're working on is to be able to specify what kind of performance you want in the nodes that you're looking for. As I mentioned before, this is the link that will take us to the node monitoring dashboard here in Grafana. So this is cool. It allows you to see CPU load, how much RAM is being used, disk space, things like this. So this can be useful for a variety of reasons. Like if the node has some downtime, you'll be able to see it as a gap in these charts, which is a basic thing that you can do here. And it can also be useful, like personally, I use this view quite a bit when I'm trying to understand what's going on with nodes and workloads, and if there's some kind of problem, like how are the disks performing and things like that. So for your average user, this maybe isn't super relevant, but if you're having questions about your workload, like, maybe it doesn't seem to be performing as well as you would expect, you might come in here and see that there's a high load on the CPU that could potentially be making it difficult for your workload to get its work scheduled on the CPU or something like that. So this can be interesting to just come and check, especially if you have any problems or questions, you want to understand what's going on. Again, for average use case, this is not necessarily relevant. That's in here, and you can easily get there for any node that you're checking in the node finder by clicking this button, and that's usually the way that I would go there versus using the top level link. So that's a node finder. This is useful for users, both users and for farmers. If farmers want to come in and see if their nodes are online, or if their nodes have any kind of problems, they can come in here and check that out. One more thing I'll mention here, we can also find GPU nodes in here, and those will have to be rented as dedicated machines. We'll see more about dedicated machines down below. Let's take a look quickly at what happens if we apply the filter. So if you make any changes here, you hit apply, and then we should be able to see some nodes that have a GPU. The GPU details, these are loaded directly from the node. So sometimes this can take some time. If they don't load successfully, there's a little button to refresh, but in this case, we can see this node has a NVIDIA GT 218, and if you're looking for a GPU for workload, that might be interesting to you. All right, so you can check VMs now. So rather than having a separate playground like we used to, all of the options for deployments are now available here inside of the dashboard. And these have been broken out into various sections. So this one's virtual machines, orchestrators, includes things like Kubernetes and CapRover, dedicated machines. Get back to that in just a sec. We also have our applications here. So these are solutions that you can deploy in a nice and convenient way. So these are all the areas that contain what was previously in the dashboard. I'll show you just briefly what the deployment flow looks like for a micro VM, just because this will happen pretty quick. Micro VM images are nice and small. If you've used the playground or tried to deploy something before, this will look mostly familiar. We have some different OS options. You can give a name to your VM, choose capacity, including a custom amount. This is, if you had a dedicated node, you could hit that toggle now, and that will help you to select your dedicated node from the available nodes below. You can also choose to deploy only uncertified nodes. And this is the node selector, which is a nice UX improvement that we've gotten in some more recent versions of the dashboard, where we can select a region, select, we wanted a node in Belgium, node. We hit load, and it will filter for us. It will show us available nodes. And this is nice because now we can get a sense for the already used capacity on the node and what's available. And then we can select a node and we can create a deployment. So go ahead and deploy button here. And if we wanted to connect to our VM using another network option, they're all here. So it's very easy to add WireGuard access. The Mycelium network is now integrated into the dashboard and into ZOS. So if you want to use Mycelium, you can just hit this toggle. There's also environment variables and disks. So if you want to add a disk to your workload, you can do that there. And we just hit deploy, and it's going to step through the deployment process. And just give you a sense for what happens next and what you see after the deployment is completed. Again, for micro VMs, this typically happens very quickly, and also for free farm, should happen fast because the node is grabbing the VM image from our servers in Belgium. All right, so now we've successfully deployed a micro VM. We just have a planetary network IP on here. Now we can see all the details about our VM. Anything that we might need to connect to it is in here. There's also some additional details in the JSON there. That's just to give you a brief sense for how simple it is once you've connected your wallet and funded your account and also added your SSH keys to come in and create a deployment. So let's cover that one quickly. I'll go a bit out of order here, but we'll come back to everything. So this is where you can just input or generate your SSH key. The dashboard will prompt you to do this if you haven't done it already when creating your account or creating a deployment. Let's see, so applications, orchestrators, and once you've created a deployment, all of your contracts will show up in the contract list here. This can be useful to get an overview of everything that you have running in order to see the VMs and applications. You have to enter the appropriate menu there, but all of your contracts will show up here. So and once this contract has started billing, I will also get an estimated billing rate per hour, and also for all of the contracts. This is a nice new feature as well. We get a total hourly billing rate for all contracts, as well as a monthly estimate. So this is nice. You have multiple contracts. You can now get a sort of high-level view into how much you're paying, how much you can expect to pay. A bit more about dedicated machines now. This is the area where you can come and browse dedicated machines and rent them. This doesn't show us info about the GPU in here, so if you're looking for dedicated machines, you want to go to the node finder first, and then once you've found a node that you like, you come in here, reserve it. If you want to deploy to your dedicated node, then you would go through the normal deployment process and hit that dedicated node toggle that we saw earlier. Your dedicated node will show up there, and you'll be able to make a deployment to it. When you rent a dedicated node, you're paying for the entire node, and you still create contracts like you would otherwise, but they don't incur any additional billing on your own dedicated nodes. The last thing that was seen here is a link to the FList hub. I'm not going to show you the FList hub because that's more of a sort of specialized thing that's typically for people that are creating solutions, but there's a link in there if you needed to use it. And that's, I guess, just to show that this dashboard is now really the one-stop shop for most, not every single link that you might need in the course of doing more advanced things, but in terms of basic and moderate level things that you might do on the grid, all the links are here now. Meek, did you have anything to add about the deployment section before we move on? Did I forget anything?
No, I think it's good. Maybe just to add that the dedicated machine section will be removed and I'll be in Node Finder in maybe a couple of weeks. So this should be easier for people to run dedicated machine.
Okay, surprise, this screen's going away, so don't look too carefully at what's going on here. But that's a nice point that we are under constant development. Our dev team is always making changes and improvements. So
Mhm. And always based on the feedback from the community members. So if you test the grid and you have any feedback, feel free to give us a shout on Telegram or the forum, and then we can improve on your ideas.
absolutely, yes. If something in here doesn't work well for you or you have an idea for how to improve it, please don't hesitate to let us know because it is an important factor in how the devs decide what to work on next. So if you guys don't speak up, it'll just be Meek and I opening a bunch of issues and everything will look more the way that we think it should. So yeah, let us know. Okay. Uh, Here's the farm section. So for farmers, we now have a area of the dashboard that's all about farms. And if I already had a farm, it would show up here in the list. I can create a farm. I can also follow this link to the bootstrap generator to generate a boot image for the node. So if you're a farmer, you'll probably already be familiar with this section. The node section shows more or less the same as what we see inside the node finder, but it just shows the farmer's nodes. So it's kind of a shortcut. There's also some information here about previous minting cycles and minting receipts that the farmers can download. So I won't show that all in detail because I don't have any farms linked to this particular account, but it's fairly self-explanatory. If you have a farm, you can come in here, just click around a bit. You can also do things like adding public IPs to your farm and setting additional fees for dedicated nodes. That would show up over here on the side. So this is for everything that farmer needs to do to manage the farm and the nodes is available in here. I also have a farm finder. This is not something that typically use a lot, but one helpful thing might be here to find any farms that have public IPs. So I think if I do this, it will show one or more. Quick note, if you are wanting to deploy to a farm with public IPs, I typically recommend to try and choose one that has more than one because in our experience, a lot of those that only have one or even other small numbers tend not to be working because maybe the farmer didn't really understand what this means or what they need to do. But this is probably the main thing that I would use this view for, or if you need to look up a farm by name for some reason, you can do that here, but you can also do it in the node finder as well. It's one nice thing. I'll just briefly show it that if we come here, it's now very simple to search for farms by name. Like if I type in duck, we'll see Duck World and Duck Pond. And one of these is Nelson's farm. He's with us today. So shout out to Nelson. Now, this is nice because in some previous versions of Dashboard and Playground, there were some buttons where you had to like keep loading more and stuff like this. And so the devs have really made it nice to be able to come in here and you don't have to wait for anything to load. You can just type in the name of the farm that you're looking for and it will pop right up. So that's pretty cool and much smoother than it maybe was in the past. All right, so here we also have a link for the Bootstrap generator. I won't show that. It's something that farmers are familiar with. Now that'll just link out to that site. And we now have an integrated simulator here where you can put in some specs for a node that you have or are thinking about adding to the grid. And this will show you how many CUs and SUs you have and also your expected returns. Do we take out the, there used to be a basic and advanced. Oh, here it is. Okay. So this is a bit funny because you think the basic thing would be to understand how many TFT you're earning every month, but there it is. So if you're farming or thinking about farming, you can come in here into your specs, find out expected TFT earnings. So that's the simulator. It's nicely integrated now into the dashboard. It's right there. And finally, in terms of sections here, we have a section for TFChain, which includes a profile, which is mostly like what I see when I click here. Again, I can scan this QR code and fund this account. Watching this video and you want to make a donation, to go and scan that with the ThreeFold Connect app. No, that's a joke. But this is probably the easiest way to get funds into your account if you have TFT on the Stellar network in the ThreeFold Connect app. You can scan it. It's very simple. It's going to be simpler than using the bridge manually. And again, as I mentioned before, this will take care of bridging your funds from the Stellar chain. We don't, I guess you can use TFChain within the ThreeFold Connect app, but that's not what this QR code is for. Here we have the DAO. So if there was live proposals and if you have a farm, then you can come in here and vote on DAO proposals. Here is another way to access the bridge. So here is just going to be bridging from TFChain, Stellar, and back. And I know this can be a bit confusing. There's deposit and withdraw in terms of which network that we're going to and from. This should be depositing to my TFChain account from Stellar. Again, it's going to show me the same QR code. And also here we will see the information to use the bridge manually. So if you're using another Stellar wallet that doesn't have a QR scanner, it doesn't have a QR scanner that works here because I think they're not all necessarily compatible. What you can do is copy this address, which is the Stellar address for the TFChain bridge, copy the memo text here, send a Stellar transaction on the Stellar network, TFT, to this wallet, and with this memo, they will be bridged. 1 TFT will be deducted for the bridge fee, and then they'll be received here. Actually, I haven't used this since they added this feature, but I guess it will pop up and show you when the bridging is complete. So that's cool. And then there's a link, I guess, here to the manual to learn more about the bridges. So if you need to fund your account, this is the place to go here at deposit. If you want to go the other direction and take TFT out of TFChain back to Stellar, you just put in your Stellar address here, the amount. Again, there's a 1 TFT fee, and those TFT will be sent to your Stellar wallet. There's also a way here to transfer tokens among TFChain accounts. If you have multiple accounts, or if you want to send TFT to a friend, you can do that here. You can do it by twin or by address. And you just enter the twin or the address they might want to send, hit send, and those TFT will be sent to the other account. You can also do this via the Polkadot UI. So that's if you're managing accounts on like multiple accounts on TFChain, Polkadot UI is still a helpful tool, for me at least. If you just have a single account, you can really get everything that you need done here inside the dashboard, though. And finally, there is a way to get a minting report here. So if you have receipt hash, which can be found in the transaction memo from a minting transaction on the Stellar blockchain, when those TFT are minted to you for your node, you can grab the hash, you can put it in here, and you can get a minting receipt. So this is helpful. There's also minting receipt information available directly from the farming section. So there's two ways to go about that. And again, if I have a farm connected to this account, I'll be able to just click in there and get my minting receipts that way. And the last thing that we have here is a link to the manual. So if you click there, you link out to the manual and you'll find a lot of helpful information. And that's it for the dashboard. Well, there's one more thing to show down here at the bottom, which is there's now a logs view. And there's also a version number. So if you need support or you have an issue with the dashboard, sometimes it might ask for the logs. This is nice because we can just download them here or open this up and copy them. There's also here a button to open CRISP and talk to the support team. Our support team is here in the call, some of them, so they are on deck and available to help Monday through Friday. So if you need help, that's there. And of course, you can also send a message on Telegram if you have any questions about the dashboard, like in the grid testers chat or the farmers chat, depending on the subject of your question. And those chats are linked down here, as well as the forum and some other helpful links about how to get the token. And you can also get to GitHub. So if you have ideas or issues, you can also follow this directly to the GitHub repo that includes the source code for this dashboard. And you can feel free to open an issue there yourself. Or if you're not comfortable doing that or don't have a GitHub account, just get in touch with us, let us know what's up, and we can do that on your behalf. So that's everything to see about the dashboard. Meek, did I miss anything else in these last sections?
No, I think it's great. Maybe one thing, Nelson proposed some feature update from the dashboard, but it's already taken into account. So we wrote an issue on this, and it should be there soon. So it's just to have the memo and the app.
Okay, we have
This should be there soon.
feature requests incoming and noted already.
So this was an overview of the dashboard to show everyone, to maybe put everyone up to speed. And in the next call, we'll be able to go into more details and maybe show more advanced features, or just to show what types of workload we can deploy on the grid. So feel free to give us some input on this if you want to see some type of deployment and anything that we could do with the grid. We'll be happy to prepare something for the next calls.
Yeah, come back next time. Meek is going to show us how to deploy your own copy of the dashboard from within the dashboard.
Oh yeah, that would be nice. With pleasure.
That is one thing I will, I guess, briefly note here is that the dashboard, again, is fully open source. So that GitHub link that I showed here includes all the source code for this dashboard. So if you're interested to hack on it, spin up your own copy, anything like that, you can do that. It's all available. And if you have ideas for how to improve it, you can even do that. Open pull requests for our dev team. This is open source software. You can do most anything that you want with it, which is very cool.